StrayAllDay.com.
You are now tuned in to the show where you learn the discipline to show up day after day, to do the work, the confidence to put yourself out there boldly and authentically, and the mental toughness to continue showing up, doing the work, putting yourself out there, even when the success you have expected to achieve has yet to be achieved. And on top of all this, you get a huge dose of personal initiative, which is the go-getter energy that moves anyone out there, including you, to go and make things happen instead of waiting for things to happen. And we put all this together into one mindset, one method, one philosophy, one approach, one brand. We wrote a book on this. We've done a whole lot of stuff, all branded under the same umbrella. You are listening to the Daily Masterclass. It's all called Work on Your Game. My name is Dre Baldwin, also known as Dre All Day, and welcome to the show. And today's topic, we are talking about a success key that is maybe a little bit counterintuitive to what you may have heard, to maybe what you are thinking, maybe to what you are even doing right now. And that success key is a very simple one, but maybe not so easy to implement. It is called asking the right question. This is a key to success. Yes, asking the right question. Now, this goes hand in hand with episode 1177. The subject was insight, and insight is really about asking those key questions that will open your mind to new ways of thinking, because that's where new ideas and new possibilities and thusly, to follow up on them, new actions come from. And I wrote a whole book on this whole subject. Really, it was talking about how you have your internal conversation. The book is called Ask Yourself a Better Question. And that book is all about your internal conversation, your self-talk, and the kind of questions that you ask and how they set you up for the kind of answers you give, and thusly the way you think, and on top of that, the way that you end up living. But this conversation here today is not just about asking the right question about yourself and your own thoughts, but also asking the right question in general when it comes to you creating success, however you define that term. There is internal success, meaning how we feel about ourselves and the way you feel when you look in the mirror. There's also external success. That's the things that other people can see about you. I don't mean what you want other people to think about you. Maybe that's part of it for you. But I mean the things that other people can see, i.e., if you want to get in great shape and you have six-pack abs and nice hips and a slim body, that's external success, meaning other people can see it and say, all right, that person looks pretty good. Or you want to get a nice car. Maybe you're not getting a car to impress other people, but when you drive down the street in the car, people can see it. That's the external success. Internal success is just the stuff that only you know about, meaning what you think about yourself, what you think about when you go to sleep at night, what you see when you look in the mirror, the things that nobody else knows and no one else can see in you. Only you can see them yourself. So whatever ways you want to create success in life, I would assume is a combination of both. Understand something, that the right question is a key to you creating that success. And it's kind of a counterintuitive idea, because I did 3 or 4 episodes talking about my counterintuitive ideas not too long ago. Today I'm going to share a full explanation of why it matters so much for you to really get good at asking the right question and or finding people who are good at asking the right question. You don't have to do this all yourself, because maybe this is not going to be your area of expertise. Today, I'm not selling you on becoming this person. I'm selling you on the concept, and either you can do it yourself or you can find somebody who can. But this is a key element that you need, no matter how you get it, by hook or by crook. Make sure you have this in your atmosphere. Point number 1. Topic, once again, is success key, asking the right question. Number 1, many people roam the earth seeking answers. This is what many of us do, especially when we have challenges, when we're facing some type of crisis or some type of problem, or things are just not working the way that we want them to work. We start looking for answers. We have certain questions that we ask, and we go, all right, who has the answer to this? Who has the answer to how I can sell more of my course? Who has the answer to how I can get more leads into my funnel? Who has the answer to how I can get more playing time on the basketball team? Who has an answer to how I can choose the right microphone so I can start my podcast? We roam the earth looking for answers, especially when we're facing a challenging situation. Now, since that's true, let me let you know right now that I have good news and I have bad news. All right, which one do you want first? I'll give you the good news first. The good news is Google supplies all the answers that you need. Any question that you could possibly ask, Google has the answers. Now, that's the end of the good news. Let me tell you the bad news now. The bad news is you're getting answers to the wrong questions. So even though Google is giving you all the answers, if you're asking the wrong question, it doesn't matter what answer you get. See, answers to the wrong questions don't actually help move you forward. The problem is when we ask the wrong question and then we get an answer, we feel like we have achieved something. We feel like we're moving forward. We're making ourselves busy, but we're not being productive. We are expending energy and using up our time, but it's not actually helping us get to where we need to get to. See, when you get answers to the wrong questions, even if you're a really smart, really hardworking, disciplined, mentally tough individual, which I think you are if you're listening to this show, here's what happens. You solve one of your symptoms. You take care of the symptom. It's kind of like, you ever seen in a cartoon where there's a big wall, there's like a dam that's holding back a wall of water, and then there's one little leak is coming through a little hole in the dam, and you put one of your fingers in there. All right, so now you plugged it. You solved one of the symptoms, but then what happens is another hole pops up 2 seconds later. You put another finger in there, then another hole pops up 2 seconds after that, and you put your foot in there, another one pops up, you put your head on that one, and eventually you don't have any more limbs to plug the dam with, and eventually the whole dam just overfloods you. This is what happens when you're getting answers to the wrong questions, is that all you're doing is solving for the symptom, but you are not solving the root cause of the situation, whatever it may be. Not because you're not trying to, not because you don't want to, not because you're stupid, it's just because you are not aware of what the right question would be. And you can't even have the wherewithal to be thinking about what the right question is, because you're not even looking for questions. Right now, you're looking for answers. See, when we have challenges, we start asking questions because we think we know the question, and then we start getting answers to those questions, but those are the wrong questions. So no matter what answer you get, it does not matter. It's not going to solve the issue. It's not going to solve the issue completely. Maybe it'll solve it temporarily, but it's not going to solve it overall. I'll give you another example. Sometimes when we're in our businesses, any entrepreneurs, solopreneurs, freelancers, CEOs out there running a business, when things aren't quite going right in our business, oftentimes our first response is, okay, let me just work a little bit harder. Let me get to work an hour earlier. Let me stay an hour later. Let me eat lunch at my desk. Let me stop, taking time off. Let me just spend more time working. That will solve the problem. And if you're a hard worker, you're a smart individual, this usually works until it doesn't. And then you have another problem again. Now you're like, all right, well, you eventually get to a point where you reach your capacity of hard work. You can't work hard anymore. And finally, maybe you realize working harder is not necessarily the answer to the problem. Working harder, actually, you shouldn't even ask the question that any possible answer could be work harder. You were just asking the wrong question. You didn't know what you didn't know because you didn't have the insight. And now you finally realize, okay, I need to get a better question. And this is often that better question may not even come from you. It may come from someone else who can see what you can't see. That's why insight is so important. So answers to the wrong questions are not going to help you move forward. They may solve your issue in the moment. Again, if you're a smart person and you're a hardworking person, you ask the wrong question to get an answer, it'll be a temporary fix to your situation. But if you want a long-term fix, you need something other than more answers. Just what happens when you answer the wrong questions is you do more of the wrong things, or you get answers to questions, useless questions that are not long-term solutions. The quality of the questions, ladies and gentlemen, determine the quality of the answers. Many people ask questions that do not move the needle for them, even when they get the answer. So my question to you then, knowing all this, can I offer you a better idea? If you agree that I am allowed to offer you a better idea, then keep listening. If you say no, then turn this off. But if you do agree, let's move on to point number 2. Today's topic, once again, is asking, or a success key being asking the right question. Number 2, the right question changes from quantitative to qualitative. I can't tell you how many times over the years, the last decade and a half, I had an athlete come to me and say, Dre, I work my ass off trying to make it onto the basketball team or the football team or the baseball team or the track team. I've had athletes in every sport, even in the horse riding, target shooting, come to me and tell me that they had some challenge and they're not quite getting the results that they want. And almost all of them, at least their initial idea for how to solve the problem, because I usually ask them, what have you done to try to solve your challenge of getting better or getting more playing time or getting a scholarship or making it pro? And usually the answer is work harder. Or they tell me that they've already tried that one, working harder. Or I get athletes who come to me all the time and say, Dre, I practice 6 hours a day or 3 hours straight in the morning and 5 hours at night, and I worked my ass off all summer, and I still didn't get any playing time during the season, or I'm not making the basketball team. Oftentimes, people's response of work harder, let me help y'all understand what it means to work harder. Okay, in anything that you do. And I'm not saying that working hard is a bad thing, okay? This whole brand and platform is called Work on Your Game. So I'm not one who's going to trash the concept of hard work, okay? But when something's not working for you and your response is to work harder, what are you doing? You are making a quantitative change. In other words, you are increasing the quantity of what you're doing. You're just doing more of what you were already doing. Here's the problem with doing more of what you are already doing is that you're human and you have limits. Yes, you do have limits. There's only 24 hours in a day. Most of the humans that I know have only 2 hands and 1 brain. Some of them have fewer, but nobody has more than that. And there's only so much time, effort, energy, and attention that you can give before you run out. You either reach the end of your time or you reach the end of your talent when you are making quantitative changes. You can't do everything by yourself, even with a bunch of people. If everybody on the team decides to work 24 hours a day, there's still a limit to how many hours you can get in. When you start asking the right question, what happens is instead of making quantitative changes, doing more or less of something, you start making qualitative changes. In other words, you change the quality of what you're doing. So if you were working 10-hour days before, listen, you can still keep working 10-hour days if that's what you want to do, but you can spend those 10 hours doing a different quality of work, which will produce a completely different result. Instead of you were doing 10 hours before, now let's just do 12 hours of work. So now we're just going to get 2 extra hours of work in, but that may not even solve your problem. And now you're even more tired, you're spending less time with your family, you're eating even worse meals, and your physical and mental health is even in even worse condition, even though you did more work. You made a quantitative change. What you want to start making is qualitative change, or are qualitative changes. And qualitative changes make all the difference, people. In other words, you can get a lot more results from equal or even less effort when you are making qualitative changes. When you're making quantitative changes, in order to get more results, you have to do more effort. You have to give more effort. The problem is, again, you only have 24 hours in a day. Eventually, you reach your limit. You can't give any more than you have. And all you have is 24 hours in a day. So you don't want to keep making quantitative increases because eventually you can't make any more. For example, when I was an professional athlete, from the time that I started playing professionally until around 2011, 2012-ish, around this time, I used to go to the basketball gym, of course, and work on my game. I think a lot of you know about that, the YouTube videos I would put out. And then I would go to the other gym, the weight room gym, with the weights and the barbells and the cable presses and all that stuff. I would go to that gym later on in the day, and that would be my second workout of the day. And sometimes I'd add a third and do cardio, things like that. Now, when I would go to the weight room, I used to spend a lot of time in the weight room. I would do 60 to 90 minute weightlifting sessions for a couple of reasons. One, I'm a professional athlete. This is what athletes do. We lift weights, you lift heavy weights. And also the second reason is once I started to see results from it, I saw that my body was getting bigger. I saw my physique growing in. I saw that I was having these muscles. I saw people were noticing my muscles. It was paying off on the basketball court. I started just spending more time in the weight room, just lifting. I felt great. I looked great. It was an amazing thing. And then I read this book by Tim Ferriss. It was called The 4-Hour Body. Now, he did this whole 4-hour series. He did the body, the chef, and the work week. He started with the work week. I think the chef was second, and then the body was third. But I might have the second and third ones mixed up. But anyway, in the 4-hour body, Tim Ferriss, this is what he did. He asked a question that I had never even considered asking. And this is why I borrowed from Tim Ferriss. I borrowed Tim's brain. He had the question. All I had to do was take it in. Here was the question. He said, how could someone get in really great physical shape, get in the best physical shape like a professional athlete, but without having to spend so much time in the weight room? Because the conventional wisdom is what? If you want to have big muscles, you got to go in the gym and lift weights for 45, 60, 90 minutes, several times a week, 3, 4, 5, 7 days a week. And have the big jugs of water. You see the musclehead guys going to the gym. They got the jug of water and they got their gym bag with them. And then they got to pull all their stuff out. And they got the chalk all over the place. They're lifting weights and they're yelling like somebody's beating them up while they're doing their lifts and all that stuff. That's the conventional wisdom. The only way to get big muscles is to do that. Well, Tim Ferriss said, how could I get big muscles without doing that? And because he asked the question, he got some qualitative answers. And he went and he tracked down this guy who was an Olympic strength coach who used to train, I believe it was gymnastics performers that this guy used to train. Tim ended up interviewing this guy, took some elements from this dude, and eventually what he put in his book, The 4-Hour Body, was a workout series that anyone could do that was limited to only 4 specific lifts. The 4 lifts were the bench press, the deadlift, the squat, And there was this thing called the torture twist that you would do for your core. You basically take one of those 45-pound weight plates and you do this certain twist where you're laying back on the bench and you twist to the side, hold it, and twist to the other side, hold it, and that works the core. And then the other 3 lifts were all you needed because those are compound lifts that work every muscle in the body. And you could take, and there was certain numbers of sets and reps that he gave in the book. But anyway, at that time, I started following this program. I said, let me try this. I mean, Tim said he spent a total of, and he had before and after pictures and all this stuff. He said he spent a total of like 20 to 30 minutes in the gym 4 times a week. And he got himself really physically ripped. And he was actually strong too. He wasn't just ripped, but he was actually strong through doing this workout that was very, very simple. And I started following it. I said, let me find out. Maybe I could save me some time from being in the weight room all day. I mean, I'm not a professional weightlifter. I'm a basketball player. So if I can save some time, let's see how it goes. So I started doing it. And long story short, I've been doing it ever since. I'm recording this in 2021. I still follow the principles of what Tim shared in a 4-hour body. And when I go in the weight room, I am out of there within 20 minutes these days. And I'm still in pretty good shape. I don't know if you go look at a picture of me, you ever see me in person, I think I look like I'm in pretty good shape. But if I don't, you can let me know. All right, then I'll make some adjustments in my workout program. I'm not telling you that to impress you, but to impress upon you that because Tim asked the right question, he got a qualitative difference in his answers. And then he shared that with other people, and he became the person who gets credited with sharing it. So sometimes people ask me how, or asking myself rather, nobody asked me, but I ask myself, how can I combine these things that I do? I've told you about this question that I asked myself around probably about 10 to 13 years ago. How can I combine basketball, which is something that I was pretty good at, the internet, something I enjoyed engaging with, and making money, something that we all need if you're going to be in business especially. How can I combine all of those together? Well, the combination of all of those together was a qualitative question, and the qualitative answer was work on your game. The show, the philosophy, the brand, the book, all of it. Work on your game was the answer to the question. Being an athlete and the mentality that comes with it, and the internet, and making money. Qualitative answer because I asked myself a different question. I could have asked myself something like, how can I make money? And who knows what kind of answer I would have got. Not that great of a question. Not a bad question, but not that great of a question either. Or I can say, well, how can I make money on the internet? A little bit better question, but still very, very broad. Or how can I make money from basketball without playing basketball? I did a whole masterclass on that exact question, as a matter of fact. I'll tell you what episode that is in a moment. But the whole point is I combined all of those together, and this is what resulted. 7 ways to make money in basketball outside of playing, coaching, or training is episode number 61. So go to dreallday.com, type the number 61 in the search bar, and that episode will come up. You can listen to it right there at dreallday.com, or you can go to workonyourgamepodcast.com. You can listen to every episode of the show. When I ask myself the question, qualitative question, how can I take the elements of the mental game that I use in sports and translate them to outside of basketball? What led to discipline, confidence, mental toughness, and personal initiative. Those are the elements. What are the elements that I use in sports that I can use outside of sports? Those 4 elements, which I introduce every day on the show, they became the 4 principles of the work on your game philosophy. Steve Jobs, we all know who Steve is, and Apple. Do you know when you open up your laptop computer and you look at the little Apple logo on the laptop, you notice how the logo is, let me look at it myself while I say this, how the logo is like, if you close your computer right now, your laptop, you notice that the logo is upside down to you. But if you were on the other side of the computer, like looking at the back of somebody's laptop while they're working on it, the logo is right side up. You know that Steve Jobs was intentional about that. He asked one of his designers, he said, which one is more important, that the logo be right side up to the person who is using the computer, or be right side up to everyone else who can see the computer? And he decided on the latter, and that's why the logo is upside down to you when you open and close your own laptop. Here's another thing that I noticed about Apple, or I also learned about Apple. You know when you get your AirPods or your iPod, I don't know the iPod anymore, the iPhone, the iPad, even the computers as well. When you open the box for an Apple product and you start to open it and the box opens like really slowly, it's like that slow opening. You're trying to open it quick, but it slows you down and opens really slowly like that. You know that that's intentional? Steve Jobs wanted the box to open like that to increase it's kind of like the design vision that he had is to make it more like a show. He wanted to make it a reveal when you open that box and it slowly opens like that, dragging out the experience. That is not a glitch. That is a feature that they wanted it like that on purpose because Steve Jobs was so into making sure that he excited and delighted the Apple customer. And I think he did a pretty good job of that because he's been dead for over 10 years and they're still using it to this day. And all of you know exactly what I'm talking about. Why? Because you've been buying the products. Tim Ferriss, going back to Tim, he asked himself the question. This is a question that he shared with an audience who asked him, what is his productivity process like? He says, what I do is ask myself, what is the one thing that I could do that if I solve this thing, it will take care of all the other things? So if I got 20 problems right now, what's the one problem that if I handle that one, it'll knock down the other 19? And he doesn't start doing anything until he figures out what that one big domino is, so to speak. And if you knock over that one big domino, all the other dominoes will fall on their own. Instead of, which is what most of us do, go around and try to knock down each domino individually. That's quantitative thinking, is trying to knock down all 20 problems. Qualitative thinking is which one problem will solve all 20 problems together. Russell Brunson explains this whole concept of the big domino when he talks about selling. He says the big domino in sales, borrowing Tim's metaphor, is what is the one thing that I need my prospects to believe that will knock down all of their objections and force them to give me money because I'm solving their biggest problem. Because a customer, I don't know if any of you in sales has ever had this situation. You're dealing with a prospect and they just keep giving you objection after objection. As soon as you knock down one, they got another one. Knock down that one, they got three more. They always have more and more objections. Russell Brunson says instead of doing that and having to quantitatively solve every objection your prospects bring up, figure out the one biggest thing that if you solve that for them, they won't have any other objections and they have no choice but to buy from you because you are solving their biggest problem. When you can do that, you can sell anything to anybody. These are all qualitative questions and qualitative solutions, but you got to be willing to ask qualitative questions, or you must be able to ask qualitative questions or able to obtain qualitative questions, access qualitative questions in order to use this practice. Move on to point number 3. The topic here today, again, is a key success principle, asking the right question. Understand something, people. What I'm sharing with you here today, you do not need to train yourself to develop this skill. You may not be able to do it just out of the blue just because you hear me talking about it. This is the value of a coach. This is the value of a mentor. This is the value of being a part of a mastermind group. This is what you are paying for when you hire a coach, when you pay a mentor, when you pay to join a paid mastermind group or a coaching program, or you sign up for somebody's course, or you buy somebody's book. This is what you're paying for when they offer you and they share with you qualitative questions that change the quality of how you approach your challenges. This is what the money is for. It is not for 8 hours of coaching. It is not for 90 videos. It's not for the 12 modules of the course. It is for the qualitative questions that change your overall way of thinking. But you have to have a qualitative mindset to even be receptive to this stuff. Your mind has to be fertile ground to even receiving this, because if you are thinking in a quantitative way, then you're looking at everything like, all right, well, I'm going to pay $300 for this course. How many hours is the course? Or how many modules do I get? Oh, it's only 4 modules, or 12 would be worth more. No. What you're paying for is the quality of the thinking that is going to change inside of you. And if that takes 1 hour, or if it takes 10 hours, it's worth it. But you have to have the mentality of looking at things in this way. It is not the answers that you're looking for. You're looking for the questions, people. So many people are looking for answers, and this is why so many people spend their entire lives doing all this work, putting out all this effort, doing all this hustling, but they're not getting the results that they want because they are thinking quantitatively instead of qualitatively. You will not always come up with the right questions on your own, and that's all right. You don't have to be the genius that comes up with all the right questions. Nobody is. This is why high achieving individuals, you know what they do? They'll pay for 1 session with the right person who can provide them the right type of questions to ask, and maybe even provide the answers. Even though an individual can execute on their own, they understand that they need the right questions in place that will help open their mind and send them in the right direction. One of the biggest challenges that we all have in life are all the opportunities that we have, all the different things that we could be doing with our time, money, attention, energy, and focus. Those 5 forms of investment, the challenge with those 5 forms of investment is it is very hard to spread some of those things out in a bunch of different places at once. Money, you can spread out in a bunch of different places. Your time, you can only be in one place at a time. Your attention, You can only pay attention to one thing at a time. You can only focus on one thing at a time. Energy, you can give energy to multiple things at kind of the same time, but not really. You can give energy to one thing here, then go over to this thing and over to this thing. So you can have energy in different places, but you can physically only be in one location at a time. That is the biggest challenge with us as humans these days. So the qualitative question is, where do I invest time, money, attention, energy, focus? Not how can I invest, but where do I invest? Because there are so many different places you could invest. You make a mistake, you may not have the opportunity, you may not have the time to change and fix that mistake. Or you may not have the time to capitalize on the right question if you come upon it a little bit too late in life or too late in your career. So this is the reason why you go find the people who may be smarter than you. You go find the people who can see what you can't see, and you're willing to invest in that because they can shave 10 years off of your learning curve. They can get you to a result that you otherwise never would have gotten to on your own just by doing, as we recap today's class, the very point, asking the right question. Again, listen to episode 1177 as soon as you're done with this one, so you get the follow-up and you got the continuing education that goes on this subject. Number one, many people roam the earth seeking answers. The good news is Google has all the answers, so you won't have to go seeking. They're right there. The bad news is if you're asking the wrong question, it doesn't matter what answer you get. Can I offer you a better idea? Yes. Point number two, the right question changes from quantitative changes, meaning doing more or less of something, to qualitative changing, doing completely different things or doing them in a different way and or for a different reason. This is what makes all the difference. And many of our people that we know as thought leaders, people who have become innovators, people who have made changes to the world, did so because they asked different questions, not because they were just better at doing the same thing that everybody else does. All right, point number three, this is the value of the coach, mentor, the mastermind group. This is what you're investing in. Not the answers, you're investing in the questions. All right. You won't always be able to come up with the right questions, but you pay somebody or find someone and are willing to invest in them so that they can help you figure out the right question, and then you can go execute on the answer. But if you don't have the question, it doesn't matter what answer you come up with. Think qualitative over quantitative. Work on your game. Dre all day.